bit under the weather since yesterday, but I didn't want to let my friend Sachin down, so I showed up here. If we go like Chabir, the first deck itself, because there are a couple more slides in that, as well. Sachin, that was a mouthful of introduction. That you know me, I'm uncomfortable with all of that. I think my pride and my joy is that I grew up in Nagpur. I'm definitely a Nagpur person. Management consulting firm, a US wide as well. But while I was running the management consulting firm, I was volunteering, to touch on that, I was volunteering for a national nonprofit called Share Our Strength, which is famous in the US for No Kid Hungry campaign. Their mission is to fight child hunger, to eliminate child hunger through providing school meals. They operate in all 50 states with all parties in every public school. And so, coming up on 40 years, the founders and the executives were wondering what to do. Like, do we move into a different area? Do we close down because our work is done? Child hunger is defined very differently in the US. If the kids don't get 3 good meals, then they're considered hungry. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Bindas for ekdam acha khana ho, this is a hungry child. So when they say we fought child hunger, it means that every child in the US has access to 3 child meals. Very different from the definition in India. It's like 1 meal is a hungry child as well. So I was leading as a pro bono, as a volunteer, I was leading the strategy assessment of it. And where we landed was maybe we can expand internationally. With the idea, the model that we've developed that worked really well in the US. There are other places, why limited to the US? And so after about 4 years, the founders invited me to lead that international expansion, and that's how I ended up, essentially. And obviously, if I am going to lead the international, the first place that I'm bringing them to is India, naturally. And if I'm coming to India, then obviously the first place that I'm coming to is Nagpur. It's a center. And so we have actually Sachin is part of us now. So we're building a kitchen to serve about 50 to 20,000 kids. And the model is that we don't operate the kitchen, we don't deliver, we pick partners to work with. And essentially fund them, grant them, provide leadership development capacity, technical assistance, consulting, all of that. Set them up to succeed. And then step back and make sure that they are able to operate. So that's, since you asked, that wasn't part of the plan. We can go to the next slide. So today's topic though is related to the Gita, which is my passion. It's not necessarily hungry kids, definitely not corporate America. I was the CEO of a Wall Street traded company, which was that. It's like the ONGC in the US. But for the last more than 10 years, my heart and soul is in the Gita, absolutely. And so we were talking about it yesterday. I had a session differently oriented about the framing of the Gita, like how do you receive the Gita, how do you even look at the Gita when you open it, how do you start reading it. Today is obviously related to management, but just to set the context of the Gita, why the Gita, it is based in knowledge. So what I'm going to talk about goes along a lot of what you said also. Like Gita, for example, is a book that you can open anywhere and read from anywhere. Many of the things that you said, I was amused that those can easily be transferred over to the Gita as well. Anyway, so if we're seeking knowledge, then knowledge is endless, not right? But knowledge is also power. And half knowledge is dangerous. And so you've got to be careful about knowledge. We want knowledge, we are seeking knowledge because knowledge is power. But if you get stuck halfway through, half knowledge can be dangerous. And the danger is in being stuck, in insisting that this is how much I know and this is how it is. Itna hi hai, aisa hai, vaisa hai. Like, and Gita does the opposite of it. It very brilliantly brings the essence of all knowledge that there is. Otherwise, we'll get lost in the morass of this. There's the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Samhitas. Oh my God, and there's like mountains and mountains. In fact, there are descriptions of how much knowledge there is. And frankly, there is no end to knowledge. How can there be a limit to knowledge, right? Chat, GPT, Google, any of that. There is no end to knowledge. So then how do we know? How do we get to that one principle? So we can go to the next slide, and I think this deck is over after that. After studying many of the scriptures, I personally studied many of the scriptures. I very impressed, very inspired, and very humbled by the wealth that we have, the spiritual wealth that we have there. I concluded, it's my personal experience, personal conclusion, that there is no manual. Gita is not a religious text. It's a life manual. It absolutely transcends all religiosity. There's only one rule in it, and it's that of pure love, regardless of all distinctions. But there's no book, there's no manual as efficient, because I was trained as an engineer, so we're wired to think for efficiency, right? How can I get the maximum output out of minimum input? That's what we're always doing. Business people are focused on that. But in terms of knowledge, then, I assure you, and I'm willing to have one-on-one conversations to detail that, there is no more efficient way to get everything that there is out there that's useful than the Gita. And so part of my agenda here is to impress upon your minds, to try the Gita a little bit. And so that with that, how is that? There is practically no topic. I feel like I'm amazed at the Gita. There is no topic that's left out, including management, including top-notch management. I was just talking to Sachin, and he said, well, maybe you can do a section management in the Gita. So I would like this to be more of a conversational. So please stop me. Please share your thoughts at any time. It's fine. Let's just be unconventional. I think Sachin will be all right if you break the rules here. No rules, just law, right? Like that's the rule of the Gita. So let's go to the. Shabir, you can go to the next deck. I was not.
So before he starts, please put your phone on silent mode. There is a fine of rupees 250 rupees, and I propose it should be double. Please put them on silent. Sorry.
No, absolutely. So here's talking about what Gita, why Gita. I want you to think about this. This isn't just a joke, but it's actually a sad reality of our lives, personal reality as well. Many of us have experienced this and have seen others. So what does this inspire? What does this say, this picture? What are some of the thoughts?
Simplify the world.
What's that?
How to simplify the world, but that person has no time.
Yeah.
That person is trying to sell wheels to them, but they are not thinking about it. They are so busy that it can increase the efficiency of their work, but they do not have time to think and put it on the place.
Maybe he's not trying to sell. Maybe something quickly they are like laga de.
It's actually a blind spot for them.
Yeah, right.
मदद करना चाह रहा पर मदद लेना नहीं चाह रहा.
Because they're very in the center. All of those, right? And so somewhere people are stuck. And most often I don't have time, not right now. And it's silly to not stop at the gas station to gas the petrol, that we call it gas there, to get petrol because I don't have time, I'm rushing. Because how far will you go? How far can you go once it runs through? And so the Gita, essentially, the first takeaway is slow down to get there faster. I would want you to realize that it is a loaded one. It is a personally experienced one. I've seen this. I've experienced it. I've seen the opposite. Slow down to get there faster. I know it's an oxymoron. I know it doesn't intuitively make sense. I know that it conflicts the slowing down and the getting there faster. But try it. If you're able to slow down, you will essentially, because the process, the journey, the thinking behind it will really put you up. Just to give you an example, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of wormholes, right? In space travel. My daughter is an astrogeologist. In space, you can travel all around it, or you can have a wormhole. Like go through. If I want to travel on an apple from one end to the other end, for example, if a cheaty ho and the ant wants to go at the other end, it may need to go. There's a lot of the circumference. There's a lot of area to cover. Or a smart one can just drill a hole right through it and reach there, and that's the wormhole. And so those kinds of thoughts only come when you're slowing down, when you're willing, when you're open-minded, when you're not stuck. You can go to the next one. So management in the Gita is the topic, and relevant. There's many themes in the Gita. Again, there's an untold glory of the Gita. But one that's probably the most relevant to this is there is a 1/4 of a verse. It's called Yoga Karma Sukha Shabam. If you, Indian Institute of Technology graduates, when they get their degree, IITs, on their degree itself is written Yoga Karma Kaushala. And that's 1/4 of a verse in the Gita. And that's skill in action. Essentially translates into English that skillful action, skill in action. Not acting for the sake of it. Not idhar udhar ka skill, but the very precise skill in action. And so the way Krishna defines yoga in the Gita is very different from any other definition. Very, very differently thought. One that's relevant here is that. And I think we'll try to go through that a little bit today. So you can go to the next one. There's a story, again, this comes from, it's a fable. Maybe you don't believe, maybe you don't have to believe. It's relevant, irrelevant whether it's believable or not. But, like Brahmaji, he's the creator of Allah. He created the good, bad, and the ugly. Deyon ko banaya, devdano ko banaya, right? The gods and the demigods and the demons. And so essentially the father of all of them, if you think about it. So one day the demons went to him and said, you're such a hypocrite. You duplicate us. You say one thing and you do another. And they went on, and Brahmaji asked them, why do you say that? Why are you so upset with me? What have I done? And they said, you're always favoring the devas. You always favor them and you disfavor us. And you're always taking their side. And you constantly create situations that favor them. And Brahma says that, no, that's not true at all. It's not true at all that I favor them and I don't favor you. They don't believe it, they don't agree with it. So he says, okay, well, come next Sunday and we'll have a nice feast. I will invite those you're alleging and I'll invite you guys. And I'll prove to you that I actually don't mess with it, I don't tamper with it. I do not favor or disfavor. And so he invites all the demigods and he invites all the danas as well. Then there's a feast and they come, and there's like people gravitate normally towards like-minded people hang out together, right? And so all the danas are in one room and the devtas are in another room, and it's the grandest feast of all. And the unimaginable feast, everything that you can imagine. And so the danas are salivating at it. A condition is you have to fast the day before. So you're really hungry, you're empty stomach because you will have never eaten anything like this and consumed. So they're ready to dig into it. And then so पुराने ज़माने में पंक्ति लगाते हैं, they sit in a row, चादर डाल के, and then there's one row facing the other row, and बीच में परोसते जाते थे, right? Like that. So ऐसे वो they do देवताओं के लिए एक कमरे में और दानवों के लिए, and they say okay, and they're like, oh my God, this is great. So and then Brahmaji says, okay, this is the time of proof. I'm going to prove to you. I mean, in his mind he says, हर एक के बाजू में दो लकड़ी रखी होती है, the two sticks. And he says, like, the only condition, you can eat as much as you want, eat whatever you want, but your hands are going to be tied. The stick on your left will be tied here, and the stick on the right will be tied here, so that you're stiff like a straight jacket. Eat all you want, eat whatever you want. And the same way, so the Danos say, oh, so you're not going to do that to Devtas, but you're going to deprive us. And he said, no, I've already started that process. I went there first. So they don't like it, but that's the rule. So everybody's sitting like this. The two of you guys are, but except closer, only enough space for the distributor to walk through. So they're hungry, they like it, they want it, but they cannot have it. So what do? So koi utha ke, upar karke, they try to be artistic, they try to catch it, or they smear their face in the food there. All kinds of drama, tamasha, they're upset, pissed off, pretty much. Okay, well, what is this? Absurd. Okay. And most of them are hungry. Most of them are like seriously messed up. And so they as upset as they are, they want to know what's happening on the other side of the data. And because they're hearing from the other side, oh my God, this is so good. Feed me more. Can you? Let's have this. Let me have that, or give me that. It's like, how come they are eating? They're enjoying it. I'm rushing through this because we're limited on time. Very interesting story otherwise. When they say, so that what the Devtas figured out is, well, I'll feed you, you feed me. See that? And you tell me, okay, with my post there, what do you want and what I want and all of that. And look at this, absolutely enjoying it. And so the point is, Brahma said, look, I don't. Unko bhi bande hai, wohi food hai. Depending on how you use what access you have, where your mindset is. So yagyaya charata karma samagram praviliyate is a verse in the Gita. So I want to pause for a moment and just hear from you. What does that story? What are some thoughts? What does that tell you? That fable. How are you processing it? What are some of your lessons learned from that story?
Demons were very selfish, they wanted everything for themselves only. And after they believed in sharing, if I can help you, then definitely automatically as a byproduct, you are going to help me.
Right.
So they are feeding each other, and the demons are, they are more interested in their self-gratification only. That is the only difference. It's a thought process, actually.
Yeah, it's not about the skill set, it's about the mindset, right? When I was in my executive role, I was constantly emphasizing on my team that when you're interviewing, look for mindset, not skill set in the hiring process. About half of what we need is skill for us, because really has skill set, but focus primarily because skills are trainable. And you can train people. Mindset is not trainable. No matter how kitna bhi skilled ho, but life can suck if it's a high maintenance employee. So the mindset was missing on that side, and skills were both were equally skilled or unskilled, but one had the mindset. Any other thoughts on that?
We built up a community, cooperation, and as a whole society will improve.
Yeah.
That is the message.
Give and take relationship mindset is always a win-win situation.
But caring for us is more important, because once you care some for someone certainly will do care for you.
All of those. And so, Sachin, when you were talking slide, there is I could track with the Gita as well. And so, what the Gita centrally says in terms of skill in action, essentially, that the verse that I said, Yagya charata karma samagram praviliyate. Yagya of the Gita is not Om Havan Ilahi Vatasa Dala Bhagwan Gita. It's like generating value for others. And that's what you all do. Business people, the factory owners and the industrialists, the mindset is, where is the problem? Like if he had a problem, there's a Zomato guy. And how can I solve this? So the mindset, if the focus is on the identified problem that my solution can solve, and if there is relentless focus on that, if the purpose is not revenue generation necessarily, the purpose primarily is not profit, if the purpose is value-based, then there's no question, because it'll automatically propel itself. I have experienced this. It does. Because there's power in purpose. So that was that. Essentially, if you take the Gita, there are 18 chapters. And if you divide by 3, like roughly 6 and 6. Yesterday's topic was similar, really, but it was more spiritually oriented, more life-oriented. This is, even from a business, it's like a magic book. Even from a business or management standpoint, if you look at sort of the first 6 chapters, Arjun Vishad Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Atma Yoga, Karma Yoga, chapter 3, and then Gyan, Karma Sannyas Yoga, in which the suggestion is that doing action for the sake of action is meaningless. Action for learning, one of the themes is that. All action ultimately, I had mentioned this yesterday, that Confucius had said, the Chinese philosopher, that I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do, I do and I understand. So I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. And I do and I understand. So samajhna ho to karna zaruri hai, but with karna is necessary so I understand. Because the only problem is like the ignorance, right? And the Gita again resonates with it. That ignorance is death. In fact, in the first 2 chapters, it's centrally located that this is not true. You feel like this, you're thinking this because you don't know. And once you know your real identity, once you know who you are, how you are, then you'll become fearless. One of the promises of the Gita, one word that is boldly used with a loudspeaker there, like abhay, abhayam sattva sanshruti, right? You will become fearless. And yes, it does make, the Gita has the power, endless power to make us fearless. And I stand in front of you as an example of that. The first 6 chapters essentially, so Jnana Karma Sannyas Yoga, and then the next one is Karma Sannyas Yoga, which is Jnana Yoga, and then the 6th one is Atma Sanyam Yoga. It has another name, Dhyan Yoga, essentially the processing. So there are many themes that come out of that, but the relevant for this conversation is engage. Oh, the Arjun wanted to run away. Na yodhaseti govindam. I don't want to fight. I'll beg. I don't need this. All of that. I'd rather. और उसके कॉलर पकड़ के खींच के बार-बार लाभ no, you have to fight. You cannot run. But the problem is you think you have to fight for yourself. इसलिए, but I'm not asking you to fight for yourself. जैसे ये factory जो चलानी है, management, executive, whatever. This isn't just for our own glory, for our own stock, whatever investment portfolio. It is to perpetuate. It is to uphold the integrity. It is to perpetuate the system's goodness. So इसलिए engage we must. In the Gita, there is an elaborate description of there is no choice. It's not possible that I'm not going to do anything. Retirement is not that I don't work. No, that's just a general way of saying it. Of course you work. You do different things. In fact, it's hard. It's impossible not to work. So you will have to engage. So might as well accept it and might as well gladly, purposefully engage. But always keep in mind at the back of the head that I will engage to generate value for others. जैसे अभी गणपति, दुर्गा, प्रसाद बांटते थे. The one who's distributing also gets the prasad. There's something left for them also. And so the focus of the one who is distributing should not be, is not, that मेरे को कब मिलेगा इसमें का. It really is focused on. And definitely, I mean, he's carrying the whole bowl of that as well. And that's each of you. The value that you're generating, clearly, there's no question in my mind about it. It is for the communities, for the society. Those who are not able to identify the problem. And even if the problem is identified, those who don't know how to think of the solutions, or those who can identify the problem and they can think of the solution, but they don't have access to resources. They don't have the contact, they don't have the capital, they don't have, for one reason, or they don't have an able body. You all have all of that. You have the brain and the brow to go with it. And so, first of all, I applaud it. It's humbling for me, but don't forget the purpose behind it. The purpose drives any business. And then the second is prioritize learning and processing. Again, this is part of the theme, I think, of DNA as well. These are my words, but and I decided not to talk so much about the Stephen Covey's 7 laws, 7 habits rather, of highly effective people, or Deepak Chopra's 7 spiritual laws, or Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy. I know all about those, and I just wanted to keep it at a very normal level. So these are just my words of how have I received the first six chapters for those who are running businesses. One is like there's an emphasis on you have to engage, but while engaging, make sure that you are focusing on serving others and generating value. And then the second is the learning. All doing is centrally for learning and processing. So the 6th chapter, the reason I say processing, the 6th chapter, which is Dhyan Yoga, again another name of that is Atma Sanyam Yoga, it's all about processing. It says that just doing and just reading and just learning is useless because it will not stick. You have to internalize it. By processing, I mean you have to internalize it. And how do I know if I've internalized? The way I show up. Behavioral transformation, right? And so you have to be a role model as leaders to your employees, to your family, to your neighbors, to your community. I know I'm certain you all are, but you are being watched. There's hundreds, there's dozens, there's thousands of people that are watching you. And later on, he suggests in that section that yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tat devi rojanamudati. People are watching you, people are modeling after you, people are learning. One of my professors at University of Virginia's Darden Business School, he was once nominated for a Nobel Prize, did not win it. And he used to say that fundamentals never go out of fashion. Very, very simply said, Alan Beckstein. Fundamentals never go out of fashion. They're always there to kick you in the butt, he would say. So never ignore fundamentals. And the point was the basic, simple truth said. Why make it complicated? So that we all know, like Sachin said when he was talking, that there's no new management concept. You probably heard that there is no original thought. Right? There's no such thing as an idea, somebody has thought of it. there is just like this is the Bhagavad Gita, there is something called the Ram Gita. It's a conversation between Shri Ram and Lakshman, in which Ram says to Lakshman in the Nashik Panchoti Ashram, if someone is thinking of it, it already probably exists somewhere. So, but essentially we have to anchor around that. The second set of chapters, Adhyay, 7 से लेकर 12 तक. The 12th is Bhakti Yoga, 7वां is Gyan Vigyan Yoga, then Akshar Brahma Yoga, Raj Vidya Rajaguhya Yoga, the secret of secret, deepest mysteries, Vibhuti Yoga, Vishwarup Darshan Yoga, and then Bhakti Yoga. The essence that's relevant to this conversation is that set of systems, structures, and processes. Believe it or not, this is in the Gita. It may not directly word for literally translate it. One ye nahi karega Arjun set up system structure. But when you process it, when you think about it, essentially what he's saying that I have settled the system. There is a structure. It may appear to be chaotic, but there is a method to the madness, and you have to align with it. You have to trust the process, and you have to go along with the journey, and the outcome will be natural. Do not be outcome focused. Everyone has to be look at the outcome. What are you getting out of it? The Gita teaches the opposite. We focus on the process. Focus on processing or perfecting the process. If you, I'm glad here. I was going to draw something here as man. There's a marker here. You all know what a Venn diagram is? Not WIN, but the Venn diagram. Like typically the three overlapping. And so the classic, at least in corporate America, the business is if you had 3 circles that are overlapping. One would be people. The other would be process. And then the third is systems. Now typically the systems are technology systems. So a lot of consultants replace this by saying people, process, and technology. And as leaders, as owners, as founders, what we do is put a box around it, which is a box of governance. Your board members, or the chairman, or the owner, founder. So this is the governance. And so this is where the metric comes. And this, that's common to all, has got to be your purpose. Purpose has to be identified. For why has to be answered. The Lord says in the Gita, Kutastva akashmanamidam. That word is essentially saying that where is this coming from? Why are you acting like this? And so in fact that's the first word when Krishna opens his mouth. The first word it's so telling, he says is that. And so the idea there is that we have to identify the why. No, don't worry as much about the what and the how and how much and all that. First, do you have a strong, convincing, compelling why, which is the core of the purpose, and it's that center. Then you can build people, processes, and systems. Gita also suggests what is now obviously known is it's your people. But like the processes can be designed and redesigned and fixed, and the systems become outdated, and then you can replace and upgrade and all that. But really, what the prime mover, what really moves the needle is the people. Always consistently says that individually. So focus on the people, and I'm sure you all do. We all do. So all the governance, holistic view of how the people are feeling, acting, all that. So that's a lot of in the second set of 6, 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. अध्याय में आता है. Carefully and relentlessly watch your own behaviors first before we point others. That includes your employees. Before pointing something out, because again, all our knowledge, all our experience has to show up in behavior. If it's not showing up in behavior, it is useless. It's not being applied. It doesn't matter how many books you've read and how many reviews you've done, how many books you've written for that matter, how many contacts you have. If it's not showing up in the behavior, that you may have heard, there's a question, you might know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. Who is the most important person in the world? You could say that myself. But the one other answer that is whoever I'm engaging with right now, whoever is in front of me. For me, the most important person in the world is the person standing in front of me that I'm talking to. the other second question that is, what is the most important time? What was or is the most important time? That time is now. And I said there are some slicing and dicing of that. And so it simplifies that. I know of 3 people, Bill Clinton, Mother Teresa, at least those 2 in the US have experienced that. You can clearly tell that whoever they were talking with. And the third one is actually my own founder, Billy Shore. I've seen it. बड़ा हो, छोटा हो, child ho, garib ho, low entry level employee ho, like C-level executive. If they are talking to that person, they have the world of attention focused on them. If Bill Clinton was talking to someone, or Billy Shore, my founder, that was, by God, that was the most important person. And I've seen it, I've experienced it also, and I've learned from it as well. And being in the moment, because the truth is, start is a myth, end is a myth. The present moment is the truth, is the only truth. It's a moment by moment paying attention to. So with that framing, if I'm also watching my own behavior, Gita, and then this last set of 6 chapters, that obviously 13 through 18. 13th is Kshetra Vibhagyo, 14th is Gunatraya Vibhagyo. Kshetra is the field and the Kshetra is the knower of the field. Being a witness, distancing ourselves. इतना भी ना चिपक जाए outcome को, factory को, लोगों को कि सब गड़बड़ लगी, you get dragged with it. You must create a gap and watch it from a distance to get a holistic view. If I wanted to see this, चिपका दूँ तो I will not be able to see it. Like for me to understand it properly, I have to hold it at a distance. ऐसे ही अपने business में, management में, what is actually happening? To create some gap, get a holistic view, to get a perspective, you have to separate that, and that's in the 13th chapter, for instance. So, एक आता है वेदों में यथा पिंडे तथा ब्रह्मांडे. You have heard, right? As is in the micro, so is in the macro. The macro system has already been set in motion. Say Prakriti kete, nature kete, whatever, the base fundamental laws of nature, Panchamahabhut, however you understand, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, whatever those formulas are, that's already set in motion. We don't control, we don't govern those. We don't have power over those. Pani aa jaye, flood ho jaye, to it's too late after that. No? So we have to carefully look at that, understand it, and then align with it. The systems that we're creating here, that I talked about, these are micro systems. That system worked for your company, but may absolutely not work for his company. So each of us is creating a micro system, micro world, but there is a big macro world in which we all operate. And it has very basic fundamental laws. Those are the fundamentals. So it's the smart business owners, smart business people, successful ones, the wise ones, take the time to understand the macro, the environment, the landscape that we're operating in, and then align with it. Because then that makes it very efficient. If we're able to harness the natural system that's around us, it makes it very efficient. It makes it repeatable. And the outcomes are different, it's like more productive as well. And then the last, for this, because we're limited in every sense here, let's stay connected. Whether you're connected to first of all, your people. अंत में धर्म ग्रंथ कहते हैं इसको. The way Gita defines dharma is not Hinduism or any of that. It's just essentially, my translation of it is upholding the system integrity, aligning so that there is a system around me, I am a part of the system, just like you are a part of this organization, and this organization probably has some bylaws or some rules and some protocols, and each of us is accountable to uphold the integrity of that. And when we expand, we have a community, we have a family, the more we can align around it and uphold it, or there could be a nation. And so you can expand, continue to expand, and essentially, ultimately, we, each of us, all of us, is completely part of the whole system. Just like every wave in the ocean, is it not completely connected and part of the ocean? No wave is separate from the ocean, right? The ocean is this massive, and the wave is this small. Here today and gone tomorrow, not even tomorrow. Next moment the wave is gone. But yet, every moment the wave is connected to The other example I gave was like no matter if you take silver or mitti, like the ornaments that are created, नाक का बना है, कान का बना है, टूट गया तो उसको पिघला दें, दूसरा बना है, but they're never disconnected from the base material, silver का हो the name and form, whatever it is in the Gita, it goes through that. As he always staying connected with the fundamental. Another example would be the dream. When we dream, all the dream characters are connected to us, the good and the bad. So understanding, taking the time to follow the system and working to uphold the integrity of it are some of the takeaways. And just to, Sachin, how are we doing on time?
We have about 40 minutes.
Oh, we do? Okay. So then we can go through some of the chapters. So then if we can get to the next. So now the point of the remaining slides, I wasn't necessarily going to go through the details of this, but I also want to share some evidence that yes, not only this, like everything in each of the 18 chapters, there are certain verses that you can pick and that directly relate. There's a clear line of sight to some of the themes and the takeaways that are there. So for example, chapter 1, which is Arjun Vishal Yoga, we can go to that, the next slide. Let you read as well. Arjun is saying, give me a balanced view. I want to have a balanced view. I want to see the truth for what it is. I want to see both sides of it. Senayor Vade, Natam Sthapayame Chita. That's the most dramatic moment in the Gita. Until then, he was ready, he was about to fight and all set and everything. And then when he says, let me go in the center and take a look at what I've got. What do I have to deal with? That's when he's shocked and stunned and sits down and says, no, you're the Seti Govindam. I'm not going to fight boss. I'm leaving. No? And then out of that Gita was born, out of that he was ready, and out of that he actually won the war also. But the starting point was that the mindset of Arjuna was that I want to get a balanced view, I want to get to the center. Not a lopsided, not a one-sided view as well. And so I would encourage us to do that as well. The other thing, he went to the right source. He wanted good advice. He valued good advice. There were many people who he could have gone to. There was Dronacharya, there was Bhishma, there was Kripacharya, but he generally picked the right one and approached with an open mind. That's how the Gita came about, right? We can go to the next slide. Chapter 2, again I picked a few just to put in front of you. We will go through these and then open for questions more, for engagement. The prime purpose and the prime mover. Chapter 2, it says like the second biggest, there's 72 verses in it. It goes by two names, some call it Sankhya Yoga, others call it Atma Yoga. But in it, to solve the problem, which is the ignorance of Arjuna, the Lord leads him to identify prime mover. If you all follow what prime mover is, where electricity is generated, right? Like coal is burned, water is thrown, and the steam comes out, and the steam moves the turbines. There's one big, huge turbine that moves, and then with it, because electricity is generated by motion, right? Just so plastic scale, then the static electricity would generate. Charge is generated by motion. Anything that is static has potential charge, but it doesn't transfer into. And so all electricity generations, whether it's windmills, those are moving. I mean, solar is an exception to that, or waves, or that is motion generates charge. And so in electrical generators, really, there is something called the big prime mover. As long as that is moving, other motion is there, and that there will be charge generated. And so we have to know where is the prime mover of our life, of my business, of my, what is the prime mover? And he takes in the second chapter right there itself that you have misidentified who you are to begin with. Pehle hi galti ho gayi. Your first step is in the opposite direction. No matter how much you go, you're just going to continue to go in the wrong direction. And the faster you go, the faster you're going to go in the wrong direction, which is why you have to slow down to reach there faster. For us to make a U-turn, we have to slow down. Ekdam usi speed mein nahi, we're not able to. And so, and then the purpose, like I said before, kutasva kashmana vidam, he goads Arjuna that understand what this is and why we're doing this. Those that are in blue font, when I read the flyer, I think there was emphasis on implementation also, right? That part of your themes are learning, culture, but also implementation. When I was talking sort of for the first time, sort of about the, it said that if you can focus more on the implementation, and when you get to one of the slides, sure. Okay. So sorry. Okay.
Slide together से.
आवाज, do I have the control?
Is there a difference?
Huh? Is this good?
Better now.
Okay. Sorry, you should have said something sooner. So, how do we deliver excellence? Is essentially Gita, like I said, yoga, karma, sukhaushala, right? Gita's relevant topic. This will be the 1/4 verse that has skillfully delivering. The verse that appears, a famous one that appears in that chapter is Karmani eva hi adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetu purmate sangostu akarmani. That doesn't make sense. It's not intuitive. It's very counterintuitive. People don't like it. People question it. People challenge it, and people just leave it aside because it suggests that in your domain, your right is only to perform. It's your choice whether you want to do or not. How you want to do and whether or not you want to do. What happens after it though? Whatever choice you make, what happens, where that choice leads, is not in your domain. It's a different orbit. It's someone else's. And in the 18th chapter, he elaborates on, so who decides? How do the outcomes are decided? Uska bhi uttar milta hai. But here, the essential proclamation is that you have a right to, you can choose, you can decide whether or not you want to engage and how you want to engage. But you have zero control. You have no control about what the outcome will be. And so with that orientation, if we focus on the process, in the moment, if we focus on performance, if we focus on delivering excellence, operational excellence, if we focus on other people's performance as well, and not make it so much outcome oriented. This is Zomato guy sounding like he didn't care about the outcome either, right? And absolutely, it shows repeatedly again and again and again that contrary to some of the MBA topics or books that outcome oriented, there's burnout. When it's all about data, when there's outcome only, there's burnout. People don't like it. People hate it. We don't like it internally, even as leaders. But if the focus is on the process and the people, making sure the system is perfect, and you provide good governance to it, this model works. And I personally implemented this, and it really works. Out of it comes a dashboard that says, okay, what are some of my results? So, for example, at the Washington Gas Utility, we had 4 broad stakeholders. We had the customers, we had the investors, because it was a $4 billion company. We had 55 million investors, Wall Street traded. So they were big-time investors also. And there were also, obviously, it's a service that's provided. So there were customers as one stakeholder group. And there were also employees. At one time, we had some 2,000 employees, but through efficiency, we brought it down to 1,500 or less even. But employee stakeholder is a group. And then because it's a natural gas, there's a safety issue, it's a regulated, so the regulators are the other 4 groups. So out of something like this comes a dashboard. There's a published in Harvard Business Review, which is you're part of the balanced scorecard. There's a concept called balanced scorecard where you're balancing seemingly conflicting views and you're trying to optimize the result that you get for all 4 stakeholder groups. But you don't start there. You start here. Those are natural outcomes. You get a balanced scorecard when you have specific metrics and targets and then you measure. That's the end result of it. We can go to the next chapter 3, which is Karma Yoga. I titled it by this that you have to model what first class, what does that mean? Whatever I do, I will do first class, not second class, and never third class. Absolutely, right? It's my best. I'm not saying that this is the best way it is done. I will always do my best, and that's good enough for me. I feel good about it because then it allows me to be bindas after that because I've left no stone unturned. I've given it complete shot. So model ourselves, and then this first class, and then the bindas is sort of how I process karma yoga. Those are some specific verses. When I started as Yagyaya Charata Karma Samagram Praviliyate, when we heard that fable of the Brahma and all that when we are generating value for others. In this chapter, he says that not even a moment you can be without doing something. If you're sitting, if you're breathing, if you're sleeping, you're still doing something. Might as well be thoughtful about it. Might as well be programmed. Might as well be aligned with the purpose that you identified. Swadharme nidhanam shreya paradharma bhaya is one other famous word that comes. Is that play to your strengths. The strengths of your employees, identify that, or strength of your organization, or strength of your product, or strength of your market, rather than trying to imitate someone else someplace else. This may, nidhan, in a sense, is insecurity. There is anxiety. When we're trying to compete with someone, rather than trying to be original, so I would encourage all of us to be comfortable in our skin. I am fine the way I am, and focusing on that. And that's Swadharma. Understanding who I am and then staying in it. Otherwise, life is filled with anxiety, misery, stress, worry, all of that. But when I am comfortable with myself, when I'm playing to my strengths, it's the opposite effect as well. That's that verse. We can go to there's others, and we'll share this deck for those who want. Certainly you can go through, and you can then connect separately as well. Chapter 4 very much centrally focuses on culture. And even at that, culture of learning. Sarva karma cha akhilam partha jnanena parisamapyate. So that, like if you carefully look at it, all work burns in the end. And so you can associate with the ash, or there is this intangible learning out of it. There's the tangible ash that remains, which is the karma fall, and there's the intangible learning, which propels our evolution, right? As spirit souls. It doesn't matter physically, we were monkeys and we became this, we believe in spiritual evolution. Evolution of the spirit, not evolution of the body. And that is powered by learning. And so we're on a journey to learn. And ultimately learning about what we already know. The irony is, what we already know, but just are unaware of. Unawareness is the problem. Not paying attention, not having the insight, not going in within. There is mentorship, tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. There is succession planning reference in the Gita, there is mentorship program reference in the Gita, there is the need for humility. 10 minutes, okay, quickly brought through it. Maybe what I'll do is point a few highlights and then we'll stop. So if you can go to the next one. The chapter, if I were to put a tagline in the context of this, I would say that it really teaches us how to stay connected and be inclusive. These days there is this talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. There is a lot of that in that chapter also. There is a lot of emphasis on that we must stay connected. Just because we're the owners, you cannot take it back. And then you all already know this. There are some of those staying in the game. Like essentially, if you just carry on with the circumstances, there is a way to put ourselves back on the board. You can go to the next one. Actually, I'm just going to cruise through this real quick. Sixth chapter is one of my favorites because it really brings a balanced view. It does not insist on as I can. It says, in fact, the path to success, the quickest, the most efficient, is the one that regulated, moderated, balanced. And it literally, believe it or not, the Gita talks about taking vacation, eating well, sleeping, all of that. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapna avabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. This appears in the 6th chapter that eat properly, sleep properly, take as much as you need to, go take vacation. Because if you don't do that, then there's an imbalance in your lifestyle. And it's not going to get us through. Most people like me, all of us, here we will not get through by only picking one or the other. But he suggests that there is absolutely an efficient and practically effortless way, the way we've been designed. If we understand the system that around us, if we are able to see that I am a part of the system, And if I align it, if I commit to uphold the integrity of the system, then it's the momentum of the system which is set in goodness. The system around us is not set in negativity. I'm going to be carried by it as well, if I understand properly. And this chapter leaves us with the experience of that. The greatness, the glory of the Gita is that it doesn't just talk about it. It leads us to experiencing that. Absolutely. If we follow the protocols in it, if we follow the system, it talks about dhyan, it talks about moderation in eating, a lot of that. And if we just generally follow it, there is a 90% chance that we can experience that as well. So, let's go to the next one. So, when I was talking, the reason I highlighted portion is when I was first talking with Saurabh, and Sachin had connected me. He said, our theme is implementation this year, and like I am data mein dekha 0.02 or 0.2% only implementation. People just talk about it. This is everything that he was telling me, and so we really want to try to build it around implementation. And I just happened to say to him that the Gita also suggests that, and he was shocked and he said, "Where?" He's like challenging right there. And I said, if you pull up the 7th chapter and the 3rd verse, in it. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatadisiddhaye yadatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatata. Krishna says that there's thousands of people, from 1,000, maybe one actually goes through and tries it. And then from the thousands of those who are trying, one actually reaches the finish line. And so it sort of, the proportion kind of matches. By the way, in the US it's the opposite problem. Like, so if when we had a large staff retreat, and when you do the give tests and surveys and that, most people say that I would rather implement. Most people don't want to do strategic planning or thinking. Well, just tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it and leave me alone. This is like the gravitational mass in the US, which could be one of the reasons why the US is where it is versus relative to us. And I'm not taking sides, I'm not saying good or bad, but there is a big setting there, natural setting of implement, do it, everyone, versus sounded like the other way around. So that's mentioned there as well. Then he talks about there's generally speaking, 4 types of people who are motivated for that. I'm not going to get into this. And then essentially again hammers purpose in there. That any action, any thought, any connection that we have to have, you've got to put the purpose in. Never can afford to forget the purpose. Otherwise it's a waste. The next one. So insightful vision. Was this? Oh, sorry, if you can go back one. Because I combined 7, 8 and 9 in it. In the 8th one, there is the Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhecha. So therefore every moment, Sarva Eshu Kala Eshu, moment by moment, don't leave purpose. Remember, in this case he's saying me because he's asking him to trust him. But as I was saying, that you cannot afford to forget that. But then also engage equally. Keep the purpose in front of you, but engage. Do, in other words. So there is an insistence on that. And then towards the end of the 9th chapter, there is a big, 2 verses, but with big emphasis on equality. In it, he says whether it's a woman, man, Brahman, Kshatriya, Shudra, this is accessible to everyone because it's already embedded in the DNA of it. It is not set aside for any particular religion or particular caste, creed of that or particular gender. Completely debunks the myth. I think it is actually the opposite. It's accessible to everyone and available. So this is a modern concept, like in the last 10 years, but thousands of years ago it was there also, right? Now I go to the next one. So chapter 10 and 11, 10 is Vibhuti Yoga and 11 is the cosmic vision, Vishwarup Darshan Yoga. Essentially there, Arjuna is saying to describe in more detail, and then show me the money. He said, if you're real, I want to see it, the connectedness, and in which he does. Amazing expose there as well. I will let you all process this on your own time. My apology, this is too much, so I don't want to go through this. It emphasizes on the vision. Also, the vision, sticking with it. If you have a visionary that you're following, stay with the visionary. Hitch your wagon to a rising star, which is something I did early on in my career. And as the star takes off, my wagon already also took off with it. So when you find a solid visionary, when you're fortunate to be connected, don't leave the visionary. So go to the next one. 12, 13, 14, again, it's just taking a perspective. Itna bhi na chipak jaye, like become one that, like you'd lose the perspective entirely. Perspective is critical. There's culture that in Bhagwad, they have 12th chapter, like there's just absolute out of this world description of the behavior transformation. How does a yogi behave? How does it show up? Now, I'm not going to go through those are the 13 through 19. Chapter 13 says just stop managing your image. We're like, there's so much drama that's going on. People manage images through their costumes or the big pomp and fancy that they put up. So the needle doesn't move there. So specifically say that image management is bad and wrong, and don't indulge in that. And then the 14th chapter gives very greatly detailed description of the three psychological forces with the sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. Why do some businesses take off like crazy, and a similar idea, and those other businesses don't? Why? What happened? Those whys are answered in the 14th chapter. We can go to the next one.
So what would be the three psychological forces?
It's sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. Sattva, raj, tama. Yeah, I mean, if I start talking about those,
We'll get back to that.
yeah. And then the 15th and the 16th, again, this is amazing how, I'm not making this up, I've cited some of the verses there, and then we decode the complex. Right? By the way, as leaders, one of your roles is to decode the complex. Because not everyone is able to see the whole picture. You are sitting high up here in the ivory tower, and you're able to look and understand the perspective. But the little ones who are plugged into the machine, they're not able to. It's our responsibility, it's our accountability. We owe it to them to make sure that we decode, we simplify the process and explain in bite size to make it palatable. And based on that, then setting up the system, like I said in the Venn diagram, but then trust it, trust the system. We don't want to be monkey brain, ki thoda ye kiya, thoda ye kiya, constantly changing it. Let it percolate, let it mature a little bit as well. Asanga shastrena durdena chitta. Again, I will not go into that. Let's go to the next one. And now we're coming in the final lap. I think there's only one other slide after this as far as this is concerned. Very lucidly said that we all believe something and we become what we believe. Yo yat shabda sa evaya. And so therefore watch the kind of culture that we are creating. What kind of belief system are we propagating? What kind of experience are we receiving and are we giving to others as well? Just talk about, you give Diwali gifts or bonuses or whatever. Be thoughtful about it. There's a place to be, not just for gifts, but there's a big emphasis toward that, and I'll be very thoughtful in my words, manasa vacha karma, right? In my speech, in my thoughts, obviously, my thoughts, my speech, and my actions. Just man ke vichar, vani ka uchar, or tan ka achar. Being like you have to be thoughtful, and the intentionality is what drives. What was the intention? But if I can insert the right intention, then my thoughts will automatically align around it. My speech will automatically come the way I mean it, and my actions will reflect the alignment with it. One really important one, and so those are very beautiful descriptions of the behavior, by the way. But the last one on this slide I want to emphasize, this is very relevant, very important, is that the outcomes that we achieve, success, failure, is never only dependent on the performer, on whether your employees or your own. There are 5 factors, Krishna emphasized in the Gita, that contribute going to making whatever, anything that happens, he says, anything that happens in the world, any moment, there's always the play of 5 factors that's happening. And the doer, performer, you and me, are only one of the 5. And so even if I'm a perfect performer, absolutely fantastic, all I can do is I can ensure 20% of success, right? Because 100% divided by 5 is 20%. And so it does not make sense to hold someone exclusively accountable or to be bogged down or take full credit. We don't even know the other four hidden. I mean, he talks about what those other four are here, but this 80% is something else happening that is bringing this about. I happen to be at the right time at the right place, and I delivered my perfect excellence, and it went through. And those four are Adhishtanam. Karta is the doer. Adhishtanam tata karta karanam cha pratagadam. And so Adhishtan is the founding principle, like gravity or any of that. Like am I harnessing the founding principle? Karta is the performer. Karan is the appliance and the equipment. The Gita is talking about is make sure your equipment is not faulty. Make sure your machinery, the appliances, the instruments are fine-tuned and as good as they can be. That's Karan, Upakaran jo kehte hain, Bahya Karanam Karan. Because that is, you may be a perfect performer, but if your machine is faulty, you're not going to get the result. And the machine could be anything. It could be the whole setup, your whole system could be the machinery as well. Pratak Cheshta is process. Your machinery may be just the most modern, just brought it from the US or Switzerland or wherever, and the people are perfect, but the process is dysfunctional, process is inefficient, process sucks. You will still not get perfect result out of it. And then Daivam is like, even if all four are perfect, the performer is perfect, this is the most modern, the process is ideal, and you're fully harnessing the principle. There is still an unknown Daiva. It's partly decided by what, and that Daiva, it determines what is right for the whole system in this moment. We are only looking at what is good for me, what is right for me. The whole system, at every moment, it is a dynamically intelligent system, I call it, right? Dynamic meaning what? Every moment, right? It's not static, it's dynamic, and it's intelligent. So dynamically intelligent system, it is constantly adjusting. We're part of that. And always ends in a result that is good for the whole system, because it's God's system or whoever's system, whatever you want to call it. It's the system. And so there's no place there for only one individual, this or that. And therefore, that is Daiva. This makes no sense. I did this, I did that. Yeah, it may be good for you, but I'm looking at whoever is looking at saying that, but it wasn't for the overall good, it was not sustainable, all of that. And so we have to have open space, open-minded, naturally, a blank, that maybe there is a reason for it, and that's Daiva. Those 5 factors go into every outcome. So why would you beat yourself up? That I failed, I suffer. Why would you beat others up? It's not just your competition that's killing you. There are 4 other factors as well. So I think this is now on to the last slide. Next one. Delivering operational excellence. Boss, there is no other chapter like this one. It's like absolutely hits it out of the park. The concept of operational excellence. What it takes to, because ultimately he's about to wrap up the Gita and Arjuna's got to stand up and fight. And he would want Arjuna to give his best, right? Absolutely. And so this is his hammering that. We'll not go through the details and we'll just ramping up. So last slide and then go ahead. So this is how we walk through. Right? We talked about the story, generating value for others. It is not just circumstances, it is how I respond to it is what determines. And then we went through some of the categorization of the chapters and what are some of the relevant lessons from this. And then we can go to the last slide and that's it, which is, you can go, yeah. So take the time. But if you think you're too busy, not now, then you're mehnat ke gade jaisi utha ke le ja rahe. Like someone is saying, boss, there's a beautiful instrument here. Just put those on there. See, watch what happens. Look at the speed with which you go. Look at the efficiency with which you go. And look at the effortlessness with which you go. The energy consumption कम हो जाएगा. इतना थकेंगे नहीं और speed भी बढ़ जाएगी. The products and the result. That those wheels are the Gita. 18-wheeler होती है ना, सुना है क्या? In US में Mack truck होती है. So this is true. The massive trucks, they have 18 wheels. And so I'm presenting to you this Gita. 18 there na? 18 chapter. This is the 18-wheeler that will take it.
So So now we open the house for questions and answers. Please be brief and please do not share your thoughts. Ask only questions. We'll just take a quick couple of questions.
थर्ड चैप्टर में स्वधर्म आता है, तो स्वधर्म पे थोड़ा बताइए कि एक्चुअली मेरा जो काम बिजनेस है वो स्वधर्म है या मैं एज अ सोसाइटी में परफॉर्म कर रहा हूँ वो स्वधर्म है? स्वधर्म के ऊपर थोड़ा सा क्लैरिफाई कीजिए.
बिल्कुल, great question. So first name is Sir, then know that my last name is Vant. तो पूरे नाम से कहे Sir Vant करें, खाली Sir ना कहे. तो yeah, that's a very critical scope in it. It is upholding the integrity of the system. So that whatever business you're doing, whatever you have set up, is it really catering? Is it serving the community that you're looking at? Because your Swadharma, it's in the Gita, there's no mention of Hindu. Never. Not one time that the Hindu guy, or any other religion for that matter. And because it's said in Sanatan Dharma, right, which is the original from which which is the fundamental. Sanatan means ever fresh, never changing. The fundamental, the most basic, the original. So in it, what is stated is who we are is Satchidananda. You may have heard the name word. We're not the body, flesh, and the bones and the bag that we're carrying around. Our original nature, which is Swadharma, धर्म गुण कहते हैं ना, केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज या जो भी उसको धर्म कहते हैं. या जैसे पानी का धर्म है ठंडा या बहना, किसी सॉलिड का धर्म है जिधर रखा उधर ही रख जाना, अथवा हीट का धर्म है ऊपर की ओर फ्लो होना, हीट राइजेस अबव, राइट. सो दैट्स द ओरिजिनल डिजाइन. ऐसे ही योर ओरिजिनल धर्म इज टू नो दैट यू ऑलवेज एग्जिस्ट, टू बी fearless. In other words, Sat is fearless. Chit is be aware that you are awareness, you're not the body, and Ananda is joyful, that you're blissful. So the sixth chapter, for example, will take us to the realization of my own original nature. So if there is no fear, and if you are aware, and if you're always happy, then why would you want to just be selfish? Why would you want to hoard? Why would you only want to care about your own personal? So once you align with the system, just like the macro system is looking out for the whole, when the micros also realize that we are all connected, we are all part of the same system. This hand is part of the same body as that hand. So when this hand doesn't think that I don't care for this hand, it got hurt, the arm broke, I'm not going to leave. When it breaks, you're going to have to do more. So you have to, because you're serving the same whole. Every part is serving the same whole. Because the part is, with that view, when we set our systems, our company and our mindset, that's when we are being in our Swadharma. So relentlessly focusing on that is Swadharma Nidhanam Shreya. Otherwise, if I only limit it to myself, if I only have a finite view, then there is insecurity, there is anxiety, there is misery in it. So there is a longer answer to it. This is a short one. We can separately connect. I have some of my cards, so we can talk more about it also. Any other questions?
How to start means this is a very. I also tried reading Gita, but somehow. So which book to read? What you suggest?
Yeah.
How to start?
Sure. There was a question like that yesterday's session also. It was differently oriented. Gita, there is only one, right? The original Sanskrit Gita, because there was only one conversation. There are many translations, almost all languages, and there are many interpretations of it. So the trouble comes when we focus on the interpretation and forget the main purport of it, like the original face value. So I strongly recommend that you read that Gita, which is your own. But if you don't follow Sanskrit, then I would recommend Gita Press Gorakhpur's Hindi Gita, and I would recommend also to someone, Eknath Ishwaran. Eknath Ishwaran was a Fulbright English Gita.
There is a Prabhupada's 1000-page PDF. Is it?
Pranam hai, I'm not going to comment on it. I am an admirer, but I'm not a follower. I admire because there are serious interpretations in it, and that gets us stuck in a particular essay or side. I would rather remain free and unstuck, and I would let my mind process and draw my own conclusions as long as I understand the meaning of it. So I would, as your friend, I would highly recommend that focused only on translation, not on interpretation. You interpreted it.
Which was the book said? Which was the book you said?
Eknath Ishwaran is the English author. His organization is called Blue Mountain Press. If you look up Blue Mountain, he was an English professor at Nagpur University, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he's world famous in California for 30 years, Fulbright scholar, professor of English in Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley. He was the HOD of English 50, 60 years ago.
Repeat the name.
Eknath, E-K-N-A-T-H, Ishwaran, E-A-S.
Not Ishwar.
E-A-S, he spells it differently, E-A-S-W-A-R-A-N. I mean, he's no more. He died in, I think, 1990 or 90s, in the 90s. And his publication is called Blue Mountain Press. Fantastic, practical. And he also has an interpretation, again, understand the translation, you interpret it your way. That is the best Gita for you.
Or otherwise wait for a year, he's coming out with his own Gita.
I am not interpreting it. I'm only
I
translating
mean,
it.
that will be a translation, but we can
That will be a great.
Yes. So Rajesh, you wanted to ask a question.
सर कर्मण्य आप so बोलते हैं but in management and this thing we plan the result first and then accordingly plan the actions.
Yeah.
So how is this difference?
Yeah, and I think that's topsy-turvy. I think we should have a general idea of what is it that I'm trying to achieve, more from the point of view of purpose. What is the end goal? And the question to ask is like, to what end? I would suggest. Whatever it is, I'm setting up a factory, I'm managing employees, I'm doing this. To what end? Meaning, like, in the end, what is the absolute final objective? I don't know if you guys have heard of theory of change. There is a concept called theory of change, right, in management. It's more in the NGO space, but it's applicable also as a theory of change, TOC. What is the change that I'm trying to bring about with this business model or with this management principle? Ultimately, is there a problem that I'm trying to solve? Like, why is there a problem? What is the change that? The more clear you are about it, jitni clarity aegi, the outcomes start to fall naturally out of it. You must have some dashboard and some metrics and some targets, obviously. Otherwise, you'll never know. In management, if you're not measuring it, you're not managing it. Simple as that. Right? You don't even know what's going on if you're not measuring. So measuring what the guy said, what track but don't count or something like that. Right? So the tracking is essential, absolutely. But don't focus on that. Let it be a natural outcome.
By the way, all the companies have vision. That is the purpose.
Yeah.